we have Amy Cannon and Kate Anderson from Beyond Benign to talk today about the Student Green Chemistry Commitment. And the Great Lakes Green Chemistry Student Network and the Michigan Green Chemistry Clearinghouse are very excited about this commitment and are going to be working on our end to do the best we can to work with Amy and Kate, and also to be spreading this among students in the Midwest and in the Great Lakes area. So please stay in touch with us, and you'll be hearing from us in the future about the commitment. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to let Amy and Kate tell you all about it, and welcome.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks so much for inviting us to present. So this is Amy. I'm starting the conversation this morning or this afternoon, and we're going to be talking to you about a new program that we've been working on called the Green Chemistry Commitment. Last week we were fortunate enough to be able to present about the commitment, and that was really more for a faculty administration audience. But this one we're very excited to talk more specifically about how students can be involved, because we really feel that students can be some of the most powerful advocates and can really help to transform chemistry education. So one student has tremendous power, in our opinion. So we're going to start with me just doing an overview of the commitment itself, of what the commitment is all about. So if you were on the call last week, some of these slides might look familiar from last week's call, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with understanding what the commitment is all about. And then I'm going to hand it over to Kate Anderson, who will be talking more specifically about the student aspect and how students can specifically get involved. So with that, just very briefly, we are from a nonprofit called Beyond Benign. We're headquartered just north of Boston here in Massachusetts, co-founded by myself and John Warner. We're co-located with the Warner Babcock Institute for Green Chemistry, which is the first research institution of its kind that's solely been dedicated to green chemistry research. So we're very fortunate to be located with them. We have some great space here. We have a classroom where we hold courses and host field trips and all kinds of things here. And we also get to peek over the shoulders of the Warner Babcock Institute scientists to learn more about what they're doing and what new green chemistry research they're working on. So we do all kinds of work here focused on green chemistry education, and it starts with K through 12 through academia and community and industry as well. So we do all kinds of work here, from outreach and outreach activities, talking to the community, talking to the next generation of scientists, to designing curriculum for K through 12 and academia, to running workshops and trainings. So all based around green chemistry education. So that's just very briefly about what we do. And I'm now going to move on to the commitment. So a little bit of background of the commitment, the Green Chemistry Commitment. I was at the Bioneers Conference back in California about 1.5 years ago, maybe close to 2 years ago now. And I had met Tony Cortese from Second Nature, and he started the American College and University President's Climate Commitment. And you may have heard about this, and some of your college and universities may be signers of this. But basically, this commitment is an opportunity for colleges and universities to essentially pledge their commitment to becoming climate neutral. So rather than waiting for government to mandate some sort of regulation of greenhouse gases, the colleges and universities commit to becoming climate neutral over a certain amount of time on their own. So we looked at this model and we said, wouldn't this be great to have a similar model around green chemistry? Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different. We're not talking about reducing greenhouse gases. We're talking about curriculum change and changing essentially behavior, or changing teaching and concepts within a chemistry program. So it's a little bit different, but it's modeled around that, saying rather than waiting for it to be mandated in some way or required that we teach green chemistry, why don't we say, we're committed to it now, and see how we can change our the way that we teach chemistry now within colleges and universities. So that's kind of where it came from, where this idea came from. And we have some pretty big goals. We obviously want to work with higher education institutions. We want to highlight existing work and programs. So we really want to show some of the great work that's been going on. This green chemistry being worked into chemistry programs is not new. It's been going on for the past couple decades, and there's some wonderful places. Hopefully some of your colleges and universities are already doing a lot of this work. So we want to work with those faculty and those programs that are already doing some great green chemistry work. But the goal is really to hopefully take some of this existing work and unite the community around some common goals and objectives. So what is it that's common that hopefully students can come out of these programs with training and understanding in to better prepare them for working in industry? So we find that industry is very responsive to green chemistry, very embracing green chemistry, and we want to respond to that. So chemistry programs, we hope, can better train them to enter into industry with those skills that they need. And so hopefully through uniting the community around these common goals and objectives, we can systematically really help to bring change and transform chemistry education. So those are the bigger picture goals. And this might not be easy. It might take a while, but these are the goals. Green chemistry commitment, the process that we've been working on, we have been talking to the community. We've been talking to faculty and professors that have been doing green chemistry. We've gotten feedback from them. We then formed a faculty advisory board last summer, and we've been working with them for the past year on creating essentially a new version of the commitment that seems to work pretty well for their programs. And the commitment is designed to be an ongoing piece of work that will be constantly updated from the field as well. So we essentially have a 2.2 version of the green chemistry commitment, which I'll show you in a slide or two. And we held a summit back in January of this year, and we're now continuing to talk to the community and gather feedback. So we're looking for feedback, we're looking for input from what we have put together, what I'll show you in the next slide or two. We'll be finalizing the commitment, and when I say finalizing, again, this is meant to be an ongoing project, so it will be constantly updated. But essentially, it'll be close to what we have for a final version now, which will be October or November timeline around there. And our target to roll out and launch this with the first signers is June of 2013 to coincide with the Green Chemistry and Engineering Conference. So that will be an exciting time for us. So the colleges and universities that we have on our faculty advisory board are represented here. We've been working with a pretty great group of faculty, and you'll see they're from small and large institutions, and we have chairs of departments, we have assistant professors and full professors. So we have a pretty good diverse group of faculty from all of these places, from East Coast to West Coast, and a few in between as well. So we're very excited about our faculty advisory board. We're very thankful to have them help us shape the commitment. And what we've come up with is what we call the student learning objectives. So there's a draft that's behind the commitment text here, understanding the student learning objectives, because this is a draft. Again, we're still looking for feedback on these learning objectives. But here's the meat of what the commitment is all about. It's focused on these student learning objectives, again, focusing on what's common within chemistry departments. And what we have are really 4 types of student learning objectives. We have knowledge-based objectives, skills and performance-based, so lab-based skills, ethical, and what we call effective. And that's really how these skills and knowledge are applied in a professional capacity when students go out into the workforce, whatever they end up doing on a professional level. So the student learning objectives, this is really the meat of the commitment. And these are the things. Upon graduation, we believe all chemistry majors should have proficiency in the following essential green chemistry competencies. And these are on top of the core chemistry competencies that you as students would be learning as well. So these are broken down into, again, those 4 areas. Theory, a working knowledge of the 12 principles of green chemistry, which is, again, the heart of what green chemistry is all about. Toxicology, this is a jam-packed one, and this one raises a red flag sometimes at institutions because it's a new area. And many times, you know, what we find is there might not be as many resources as we would like out there about toxicology. But we're working on that, and that's growing. And there are lots of places that are testing these waters to introduce toxicology into chemistry programs. So this one's, again, kind of jam-packed, but understanding the principles of toxicology, understanding the language, understanding the molecular mechanisms of how chemicals affect human health and the environment so that we can, as chemists, design safer molecules and safer materials. And then understanding the resources, or having access to resources to identify and assess molecular hazards. So that's more on the perhaps computational aspect of that. So again, that's kind of a jam-packed bullet point, but we think it's one of the key pieces that has been absent from our training as chemists. And if you've ever heard John Warner talk about this, you know that he's quite passionate about this as well. Laboratory skills, and this is oftentimes what's introduced first within chemistry programs, are greener laboratory exercises. But as chemists, we want to have, coming out of these programs, the ability to recognize, assess, and the key word there is design greener alternative chemical products and processes. So again, that designing piece is that key piece, and it might be the trickiest piece, but it's a key skill. And then the 4th bullet point is application, which is really that affective student learning objectives, where students go out into into the workplace and actually apply the skills that they've learned as scientists and as professionals, so that they can, you know, articulate and use those skills. So that's really the heart of the commitment. And another key piece of the commitment is that on our next slide here, these student learning objectives can be achieved a number of different ways. So at your college or university, you're going to have different resources. There's going to be different faculty, a different set of students. I mean, they're going to be a different environment at each campus and within each program. So these student learning objectives, they're not designed to be prescriptive, saying you must do this. It's leaving it open to, you can, within the chemistry programs that you're in, the student learning objectives can be carried out through a number of different formats. So we have 3 models here that are listed. So they can be integrated into existing chemistry courses, including, which a lot of times that's how some of the laboratory exercises and laboratory modules work. They're introduced through existing courses. It's not a separate green chemistry laboratory course. They're integrated right into those existing laboratory courses. So, and we'd like to see them, of course, within laboratory and lecture courses. Incorporating green chemistry into research and programs, and you know, designing or building modules that go right into existing courses. The creation, the 2nd bullet point there, is really, these are for, not every campus, not every program might have this opportunity to develop new courses or design separate courses, but some might. So this is creating a new course, which again might be tricky to add a new course as a requirement, but some campuses will have the opportunity to do this. And it might also be something as simple as designing a seminar series on green chemistry or toxicology. So inviting some speakers, inviting some experts in to talk about some of these topics so that they can start to be introduced into the chemistry program. And then the 3rd point is external, so taking advantage of some of the other departments that are on your campus. Are there other elective courses in toxicology that already exist in some other departments, or other environmental science courses that could be used to help teach some of these concepts? So that's again, this is open to interpretation. There's lots of different ways that this can be, the student learning objectives can be achieved. So another aspect to the green chemistry commitment is recognizing and awards and recognition. Basically, again, we want to highlight some of the great work that's going on out there in the community. And the awards that will be launching, the first of the awards will be made in June of 2013. But we want to recognize individual accomplishments. So, and this is a faculty, an administrator that really helps to, that does quite a bit individually to introduce green chemistry. As a student, you might have that one faculty member that is so passionate about green chemistry and that introduces it into their lecture and laboratory. And we want to recognize those champions and those individuals. And oftentimes that one individual faculty member helps to transform a department. So we also want to recognize departmental accomplishments. And that, looking as a department, how are they moving towards transforming their own department. And finally, we really want to recognize students, so the student accomplishments. Again, I said at the beginning, we really think that students can be huge advocates for change, and we have a number of cases that Kate's going to talk about. Kate will talk about a couple examples of how one student has really helped to transform a department, which is really exciting. So don't ever underestimate your ability to influence change. So again, we'll be recognizing all three of these areas through awards. How are we going to be tracking and assessing this from year to year? This is what we're envisioning, and we're working through this with our faculty advisory board currently now. But basically, we're looking to streamline and have a simple reporting mechanism in the form of an annual report where schools and departments can set individual goals, and we can help to track those goals over a longer period of time. So essentially, we'll have short-term and longer-term goals. And again, very simple, streamlined reporting that we're hoping to have, because departments are already stressed for time. We don't want to be adding more time in asking people to fill out bulky reports. So we're looking to keep them very simple and streamlined. And this will be assessed by an advisory board. So the commitment, it'll be essentially a peer-reviewed process, so that's what we're envisioning for helping to with the reporting and the continual assessment of the commitment itself. So some of the resources that we will have available through the commitment is we envision having, we're working on curricular and course materials. We won't be duplicating resources that are out there. There's some wonderful databases out there, such as the GEMS Greener Educational Materials Database out of the University of Oregon, which is a fantastic resource for curriculum and especially lab curriculum, where you can actually search topic and find replacements. So that's a wonderful resource, and we will not be duplicating anything like that. We will be pointing to resources such as that. But what we will be having are things like, what does a model course on green chemistry look like? And we will have several examples of those, because again, each campus will be slightly different. And how can green chemistry be integrated into a first year chemistry, first year, second year, third year, and fourth year? What does it look like in terms of integrating green chemistry? And again, we'll have other various examples of that. And toxicology and environmental health sciences curriculum and resources. This is a key aspect, again, that there's not a lot of curriculum and resources out there now, but there's more and more coming all the time. So it's one of the things that we're working on here, and we have a number of colleges and universities that have been working on new toxicology courses, modules, and things like that, which we will be making available through the website. We'll have resources for various stakeholder groups. So as a student, for example, will have resources on the site to help you to talk to faculty, to talk to your department, to talk to administrators. And, how can you bring the commitment to your own campus? We'll have some of those for on the website as well. And then we'll have some future potential resources that we're working on too, are some really member-only resources, which will be professional development opportunities for, say, faculty to learn a new topic so that perhaps they could teach something like toxicology, so to actually some funds to go get the training for something like that. And then perhaps some mini grants for signers. So we're envisioning some mini grants for, again, professional development or student research, that sort of thing, to do some green chemistry research as well. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Kate Anderson. She's our Director of Education here at Beyond Benign, and I'm going to hand it right over to her to talk more specifically about student involvement.
All right, thanks, Amy. That was a fantastic overview, and I really do hope that you guys are sort of processing this as you're listening and thinking of suggestions, feedback, anything that sort of pops to mind, learning more about the commitment. So in terms of student engagement, and Amy touched on this quite a few times, and really we just want to hammer home the power that you guys have at your institutions to influence change and to really bring about change, especially specific to green chemistry education. So here we go. Basically, this is, again, that same slide of our green chemistry commitment advisory institutions. So we've got professors from all of these institutions who have helped to guide the green chemistry commitment and are also really leaders in the field who've helped to really move green chemistry education along. So one of the examples we have is from right here in New England, and it's a smaller liberal arts college, Gordon College, located in Wenham, Massachusetts, so about 45 minutes north of Boston. And we've been really fortunate here at Beyond Benign to be working with Gordon for many, many years. So green chemistry at Gordon College started from one student, literally, one student who was taking organic chemistry at the time, went to her professor and said, hey, I want to do a project on green chemistry. And the professor looked at the student and said, I'm not sure that's real. Go back and give me another project idea. So the student, with her perseverance, went back with the same proposal and said, no, green chemistry is real, and I want to do my project on that. So, so literally, it opens up this one professor's eyes, and from there, he then actually sought professional development himself and went and took a course over the summer out at University of Oregon, and has since become a champion of green chemistry. So they have transformed their entire organic two-semester course, where instead of sort of how it had been traditional research in the past, now the students participate in what's called the Green Organic Literacy Forum, and Gollum projects, basically, and the students can either do outreach projects or they actually do green chemistry research. So there's lots of different ways that they can be involved, and they spread the word on campus through many community events that they do every year. And our professor there, who's the champion of green chemistry, is Professor Irv Levy. So yeah, and it's a great story of how it all happened from one student. She inspired him to think differently, and then as a result, we have an entire department now that has changed over and is doing green chemistry. So it's a great example. And then we've got one other example, sort of on a much larger scale. And so I'm sure many of you are familiar with the University of California, Berkeley, for its reputation in chemistry. It's one of the leaders in terms of chemistry programs in the nation. So this started with, again, another very passionate, empowered student who was a graduate student at the time, and he was able to, through his passion, be able to talk with his dean and actually have the dean sort of embrace this idea as well. So now what's happening at UC Berkeley, there is a Center for Green Chemistry, Berkeley Center for Green Chemistry, and the department chair, Professor John Arnold, he also is one of the commitment advisory board members. So this graduate student at the time is now, he's now the executive director of the Center for Green Chemistry at Berkeley, and has really helped to transform the entire chemistry department. He's done work with cross-curricular curriculum and really gotten quite a few students now excited and doing green chemistry, and there are lots of different projects that are happening at UC Berkeley, sort of all as a result of, what started with a flame and a passion from Professor Marty Mulvihill now. So it's really, these are two just awesome examples to show the power of what a student can do and the impact that they can have on campus. So I want to just build off of those examples and talk a little bit more about, as an individual, what it is that you can do. So it can be as simple as starting with your chemistry professor. So maybe, and in terms of an audience, perhaps lots of you guys are chemistry majors, maybe not all of you are chemistry majors. And I would just like to sort of put a plug out there. I myself was not a chemistry major, and I was a non-science major who took a non-science major course about green chemistry in undergrad, and it really opened my eyes, and certainly the work that I was doing at the time, I was studying environmental studies and political science, it fit right into the work that I was doing, and it really sort of made a lot of sense to me to be sharing the knowledge and talking to other people about green chemistry. So certainly you don't have to be a chemistry major, to be influencing your chemistry departments and influencing sustainability initiatives on campus. Our focus here is specifically chemistry because we do want to see the change happen within those chemistry departments. So it'd be great if you can start and talk to your chemistry professor, ask questions, share your knowledge, share with them websites. Specifically, we've got a green chemistry commitment website that you've seen in the slides, and we're actually actively working on improving that and getting those resources up. As Amy had said, our official launch is going to be in June, but as we're moving forward over the next few months, you'll see that site transform and see many, many more resources for both you guys as students and professors, as well as administration. So don't underestimate the power of just having a simple conversation. And for those of you who are chemistry majors who do have the opportunity to do your own independent research project and pair up with a professor, talk about a powerful way. Really, you could just go to them and say, I would like to, explore the green chemistry options here, or let's see if we can look at redesigning my portion of the research project to include looking at things like energy efficiency, pollution prevention, and take a look through the 12 principles and see, are there some key factors that you'd like to include and make those the target of your research. So there's lots of different ways that just within your own individual project, you could then be infusing and integrating green chemistry. The third point I have here is schedule a meeting with your department chair. So the department chairs play a key role within the departments, and if you can catch their ear and really talk about how the green chemistry commitment fits into the bigger picture of sustainability initiatives on campus, I can guarantee you that they're going to get excited about it, and they're, hopefully they'll then go and either ask another institution that already has gotten excited about it and has been, sort of an initial signer, perhaps someone from the advisory board. We've got a small community here that we're building, and the more institutions, the better. And we know that colleges, right now, students are making their decisions based on, the types of programming that colleges offer. So it's an added incentive for colleges to have programs that have a big sustainability focus, and specifically green chemistry, because this opens the door for students afterwards of having jobs, employment, So there's many, many connections here that administrators can get excited about. And we think that as student voice, when there's a student voice on campus who's expressing this and sharing it, that it has all that much more power. So there's a few other things. So not just, not just those starting points, but I want to make a plug here for the Great Lakes Green Chemistry Student Network, and also for Beyond Benign. Both of us have pretty good programs that really look at pulling in students and getting you guys involved in lots of different ways, and we're still framing out how exactly that's going to work. So to come on board and be a part of that is something we're really looking for. So, I mean, we applaud you just coming on and listening to the webinar today, but we'd love to get your active participation in these other programs. So, I mean, it can start with a newsletter. Okay, we send out our newsletters quarterly just to give you updates of what's happening here at Beyond Benign in terms of green chemistry education, and we'd love to share that information with you. Also, I have here become an outreach fellow. So here in New England area, the Boston area, we work with, and it ranges, but we've worked with anywhere from 6 to 8 institutions and partnered up with college students to go out into the communities and work with K-12 students. So you guys as college students have a real power to inspire the younger generation to get excited about green chemistry and get excited about science as a career, and to really help to demystify science for them. Because I'm sure some of you can appreciate and understand that, yeah, a lot of times early on science gets ruled out as an option, or students don't see it for them. So it's really powerful when a young person goes in and shares their passion and talks about, how much fun it is to actually create solutions to environmental problems. And that's what green chemistry is all about. So in terms of being an outreach fellow, we support people in the local area, but we most certainly will help you to sort of set up your own outreach that's happening. And I talk a little bit more about this when I talk about what groups can do, because many of you may already be members of your American Chemical Society Club and student chapter. So those types of programs kind of are already in place to get you out into your communities and sharing a little bit about chemistry. So to be doing it and doing it within the lens of green chemistry makes total sense. And there's lots of ways that we can share resources with you so that you can do fun interactive activities with students. So that's a little bit about the Fellows Program. And then volunteer to be a member of the Great Lakes Green Chemistry Student Network. So we're creating the student committee right now, and at the end, if there's any questions about this, we do have one of our founding members, Justin Roberts, who's going to be helping out, and he's a student at Northeastern University. And basically, there's a couple of activities that we're looking for volunteer students to be a part of. So helping to promote webinars like this one, the Brown Bag webinar. And Lynn also mentioned this, but inviting speakers to be a part of the webinar. So if you guys have some good ideas of who you want to hear from, we're all ears. We want to make these webinars interesting for you and be useful for you. So, and the other piece of the puzzle of, sort of short-term goals that the network is working on is really looking at, and this is, again, this is a demand-based creation. So students have been looking, and they've been coming to us with questions saying, how do, where are the green chemistry grad school programs? I want to pursue this. And the reality is there aren't that, you can't really Google and find green chemistry grad school programs. There aren't that many of them, right? They just don't exist. But there are several programs where there are professors, individual professors at lots of institutions that are doing green chemistry research. In order to find that, you have to dig a little deeper. So what we want to do is make that easily accessible and have a database that you guys can just go and click and, you know, find those resources in a simple way so that it can open those doors for you. Because as you guys know, right now, the only PhD program in the United States remains UMass Boston, which was started by John Warner. And Amy also got her. She was the first, by the way, for those of you who don't know, the first PhD green chemist in the country. So, you know, I mean, we're proud of that and we're excited about that. But again, the bigger picture is that we don't necessarily want for there to just be institutions that have a separate program. We want all of the programs, so everyone who's coming out with a PhD in chemistry, we want them to have the background knowledge of green chemistry integrated into it. There doesn't need to be a separate field in the long run. I mean, right now, obviously, we need to really set the groundwork and you know, build up the resources to integrate the knowledge in terms of toxicology and environmental health science. You know, there's work to be done, and you guys can help lead the way with that. So, like I said, in terms of groups, going back to that ACS student chapter mention that I said, basically. So if you go to the ACS website, then they're actually, and I have the link down there to follow because there's all these ACS suggestions of how you can actually earn the recognition of becoming an ACS Green Chemistry chapter. And basically, it's a lot of stuff that you guys are already doing as a group. Okay, you probably are already inviting speakers in to talk about chemistry topics. You're already possibly presenting posters and going to conferences and sharing, you know, your knowledge and your research. So infuse green chemistry into that. Okay, invite a speaker who is doing green chemistry research out there. Visit a facility that has green chemistry research happening at it. So these are all things that you can do. And in terms of, you know, our fellows program, you know, one of the big crux things that we do is lead hands-on activities because we know that that inspires and excites kids. So those are all things that you can do as a group. Additionally, there are, you know, just being a green chemistry ambassador, I want to sort of reiterate that you can do that on your campus. I'm sure that there are sustainability initiatives happening on your campus, and I will be surprised if green chemistry is happening in those conversations. So what you can do is you can bring that to the conversation. You can bring that to the event and have that as something, again, that can be highlighted and talked about. Also, I just want to make an additional plug for the Green Chemistry and Engineering Conference, which happens every year annually, most of the time in DC. This year, I do believe it's going to be in Maryland. It's a fantastic opportunity to meet and network literally with the leaders in the field of green chemistry and engineering, and there are student scholarships available. So I really would urge you to go to the ACS GCI website and look early and often to find out when those scholarships open up, and you can put in your application, and they will pay for your full way to attend the conference, and you'll get a great opportunity to meet not only just with other experts and leaders in the field, but also with other students. And you know, as we're unrolling and unveiling the commitment, and we hope to have it be a really big focal point of the conference this upcoming year, we'd love also to additionally really be engaging more with students. Beyond Benign has been the co-coordinator of the student workshop there for the past 3 years now, and we've done anything from having a large outreach where we had over 100 students actually do green chemistry activities, and the college students who came to the training, they learned how to do that outreach activity, and then they were the leaders. You know, they learned in the morning and they were the leaders in the afternoon. So, so those are the types of things and types of opportunities that you get to have if you go to the Green Chemistry and Engineering Conference. So I just wanted to, you know, make an additional plug for that. If you haven't heard this or it's not on your radar, I would say, yeah, it's a really good idea to get it on your radar. And in terms of next steps, so this really, in terms of tying it all together, basically we are looking to build off of those sustainability initiatives that are happening on campus. You know, this is the way for the chemistry department to get involved and to be a part of that bigger conversation, and also then be working with other departments to be working on curriculum that can be cross-curricular, because we think that that's really important. You know, when you go out into industry, and you don't sit in silos, right? It's unlike in the academic world. So basically, okay, yeah. So basically, you know, we're looking for, I got distracted. No, it's okay. So I mean, all in all, we're looking to recruit 20 signers for the commitment, and we're inviting more and more institutions to participate in our launch in 2013 in June at the Green Chemistry and Engineering Conference. So with that, we're going to wrap up and hopefully give enough time for some questions, so that, you know, and like I had said too, we have a student, Justin Roberts, here from Northeastern University, who is been a Beyond Benign Outreach Fellow for the past year. He also attended the Green Chemistry and Engineering Conference this summer, and is going to be, you know, really the point person on the Great Lakes Green Chemistry Student Network Student Committee. So yeah, for more information, please feel free to contact either Amy or I directly, and I'm sure Justin, we can even get his information to you guys too. So we're going to open it up to questions. Thank you very much.
So Justin, did you want to say a few words? And let's get some questions or comments or feedback from suggestions from the students that are on the line.
Yeah, I guess I was going to mention that I definitely urge anyone who wants to get involved in green chemistry with their university to join that steering committee, because I think it can be difficult when you're starting up trying to transform your university to kind of know what direction to go in and what resources are available to you. So I think with a steering committee that we can help each other out, basically, and build off of each other's experience on what works, what doesn't work, and what's the easiest way to catalyze bringing this kind of program into your departments. I guess we can, I don't know if there's any questions or...
Yeah, we've got a few questions, and I'm going to read them. We don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to start out. We have a lot of greetings to Amy and Kate from people on the call. And the first question that I have is, was asked is, with all of our outsourcing, are we working with other countries that we import from and getting them to use green chemicals in their manufacturing processes?
That's a great question. So what's happening in other countries? We've been involved with or been fortunate enough to be working with some folks over in India, which, as you know, is a pretty big supplier. India and China probably would be the big two countries for this question to be addressed towards. But there's quite a bit happening in India, and there's some really great advocates over there. We've been over, I think every other year we go over and run a student and a teacher workshop over there. So there is a lot of work going on there in India and China, although China, we probably can't speak too much to China. I know there's been some great work out of Yale University where they've done some great work on looking at what's happening in China in terms of green chemistry. Out of China, I know that there's something like 16 or 17, don't quote me exactly on those numbers, but research institutions that are solely dedicated to green chemistry research. So there's quite a bit going on, but both India and China are huge countries, and you can find some of the worst chemistry going on there, and you can find some of the best chemistry going on there. So that's part of the challenge, is it's not quite as consistent yet, but there's a lot going on in both of those places.
Great, thank you. I have another question here. What are some examples of what students are doing to be involved in green chemistry?
Well, that's a great one. I know Kate mentioned a few of them. We have, again, Outreach Fellows Program, which Kate could speak to the best, and where students really can be ambassadors both on their own campus of green chemistry and also in the community, so they can go out and actually, you can, do something as simple as contacting your former high school chemistry teacher and going in and saying, hey, I want to come in and talk to the course, and that teacher would probably love you and say, oh my goodness, that gives me, that helps me with one period, so coming in and talking about your experience in green chemistry is a very simple thing to do, but again, like Kate said, that one simple act you can help to inspire a future scientist. Students get turned off to science at a very early age. The statistics say that if we don't have students interested in science and have a general interest or general positive view of science, if we don't have that by 8th grade, then they will not study it in college. So we got to go and get them early. And we find that through a lot of these outreach programs, we do turn students on and they say, oh, what? Chemistry? You can do that? I had no idea you could actually, go and be a researcher and invent and explore and all of these things that, students don't typically think. So that's one thing. And I know that there was others that were mentioned. So there's so many things that you can do as a student. And I don't know if Justin had anything to add to that, too.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of, I guess, with the Beyond outreach, which has been really helpful. I like teaching students firsthand. You don't only get to teach and have them learn, but it's a learning experience for you as well. You get to know the material better and what type of, I guess, green chemistry trends are affecting universities right now. So being able to do outreach and share green chemistry is a way of really, I guess, enhancing your own knowledge of it and perhaps integrating it and knowing what lessons to integrate into your own university when the time comes.
Thanks, Justin. So I have two quick questions left that I'm going to throw out to you. One is regarding toxicology. Is the green chemistry commitment aiming to change university requirements for chemistry majors to include toxicology, or are you encouraging chem majors to pursue toxicology as an elective? And the second question, if you have time to get to it, is what types of careers or jobs are looking for students with a green chemistry background?
Yeah, I think that the longer-term goal would be to have toxicology be a required course within chemistry programs, but we recognize that that's a process that will take some time, and we don't want to start with that because it's not very practical now in many institutions. A lot of chemistry programs, it's really hard to add an additional course as a requirement. It's very hard to do practically. But that's not to say that we can't start saying, hey, let's encourage students to take this elective. So I think the answer to that question is kind of both, but we hope that longer term toxicology will become a requirement. There's a couple places that are working towards making that a requirement. Simmons College here in Boston is working towards actually making a toxicology course that was it'll be a version of what was taught last year. John Warner and I co-taught a course there on toxicology, and they're working on actually making that a requirement of their chemistry majors. So that's pretty exciting. And I know that there's several other institutions that have been introducing toxicology courses. So we're trying it out. It's being tested. In careers, anything, any type of chemistry. The largest chemistry in industry, some of the largest companies are introducing green chemistry. Go talk to Dow Chemical. You'll find that they, having green chemistry, being a really good chemist, being a really good scientist, plus having that extra added benefit of having green chemistry skills, you are a hot commodity going out into industry. And industry wants that because industry would love to be able to use safer materials if they're available and if they know how. So if you have those training and skills, you have a significant advantage. But again, don't underestimate, you also have to have those core chemistry competencies as well. So so pretty much any type of, I know that's probably not a good answer, but if you go to some of these conferences, like say the Michigan Green Chemistry Conference, there's a Minnesota one coming up, and the annual Green Chemistry Conference, there's all kinds of industry folks there that you can do some meets and greets with, and you'll find that they're very interested in students with these skills.
Thanks, Amy. We're right at bumping up against our time of noon. I really want to thank you both and Justin so much for doing this call. I think there was a lot of great information. I want to remind you that the webinar will be available on YouTube in about 2 weeks, and the PowerPoint should be available very soon at the Great Lakes Green Chemistry Network Student Network site, which is on the Michigan Green Chemistry Network Green Chemistry Clearinghouse site, clicking on Education and then going down to the student webinar. So I would like to encourage the students to send in questions, suggestions. You can email me at glgreenchemistry@gmail.com, and I encourage you to do that and to tell your friends. And we will let you all know when our next webinar will be, and we thank you again for joining, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.